Tell me something I don't know about the Skrulls that fled.
They're here.
Who's here?
All of us.
Wait. You're telling me there's 1 million Skrulls walking amongst us right now? Have you lost your reptilian-ass mind?
I sent out the call, and every Skrull that isn't in Emperor George's colony, they answered.
You lied to me.
Hey, panelists, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
I'm Rob.
And I'm Steve.
And this is going to be a spoiler-full podcast about Secret Invasion Season 1, Episode 2, called Promises. Now, we say spoiler-full because a lot of people get upset when we spoil the podcast, but you're forewarned, so you're already aware of it. So the synopsis, Steve, what's the synopsis for this particular episode? I know it's kind of short.
Yeah, short and sweet, simple. Fury grapples with past and present.
Yeah.
In more ways than one. They should have added.
we do get a lot of flashbacks in this regarding Captain Marvel, the movie itself. Plus, we get scenes that we never got before about Fury and incorporating the Skrulls into the world or Earth at a certain point, but as him being in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. at that time. So it's pretty interesting because they kind of start us off with that, and then we move into present day, and we move on to what we know, what is going on now. So initial thoughts about this. We'll start with Rob. What was your initial thoughts?
Actually, Steve, can you go first?
Sure. I loved last episode. I enjoyed this one. My initial thoughts, and we'll go into some detail on this.
Yeah.
There was a lot of violence. There was more intense, what I would think of as violence than what I'm surprised Disney let go. And I'll elaborate more on that.
Themed in this
later.
Definitely. Yeah.
That was one thing that really surprised me, was it seemed there was a little bit more, just more of that violence. We saw some drinking. I don't know if we saw a lot of drinking in other these Disney shows.
And cutting of limbs.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was going to get to in my points. Yeah, is what surprised me.
And some of the adult language too regarding certain things as well. So yeah, I honestly enjoyed the episode. It kind of gave light to a lot of what's going on that we didn't know before. A lot about Talos. We found a little bit more about the Skrulls. We find out what has been going on. Apparently they've been here really long, and there's more of them. They're more involved from what we know, more so than what Nick Fury actually knew as well. And we basically, Fury finds out more of this is going to be a huge takeover, and that's what worries him. But the way around of how he learns about it is kind of interesting in that train ride, and we'll get into that when we talk further. We're discussing that particular scene because I found it really revealing and interesting because it revealed a lot about Talos. It revealed a little bit more about Fury. And also we learned more about who in government are there and who are real and who are not. And we still don't know who is a Skrull or not a Skrull. So I enjoyed it. Like you said, it was very adult oriented, and I enjoyed that aspect because it shows that Disney Marvel has been utilizing that adult key lock that they have on their app, so we could actually, watch these shows as adults. And not everything is really meant for kids. They could water it down easily for a PG-13, but this was a little bit more adult oriented. Very similar to almost like with Falcon and the Winter Soldier itself too, when we covered that. So it seems like they are not playing it as this is kid friendly all the time. And we already saw that too at Guardians of the Galaxy as well.
Yeah, I thought just like I told you on the first one, I said, well, we just gotta wait to see what's going on. And the one thing I wanted to see if, the further development of Nick Fury and what's been going on with him. And it's funny because when you and I discussed that,
Yeah.
the next episode, that's exactly what Talos was telling Nick Fury. Is like, all of a sudden you disappeared, what happened to you and all these things. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly what we want to find out. And again, it's not going to follow the comic book, version the way
No.
we talked about, but it is going to. It's interesting. Like I said, I'm sure it's gonna. I predicted that. I think in the last episode was like we're going to see, how many people are being replaced in power, which we pretty much know that it's a big group of people that that are really high up in the hierarchy of government. But the biggest surprise to me was there's 1 million Skrulls in the entire Marvel universe that's on Earth, and I was like, holy crap,
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That even Nick Fury had that look on his face, like, say what?
Yeah.
So that's why it's going to be interesting seeing these next 4 episodes, because it's only 6 episodes, but seeing these next 4 episodes just to see what's going to happen in that storyline and how maybe they're trying to retcon a lot of things that have happened. Who knows? Maria Hill not being back, of course, because she's dead. Although somebody pointed out to me that on the Marvel's trailer,
Yeah.
she does make an appearance.
Yeah, Rob and I were talking up at fourth too.
Yeah, we were talking about they also showed Nick Fury with his non-beard and eye patch. I think there's going to be flashbacks in the Marvels.
Could be.
I don't think those are going to be present day versions.
Yeah, Steve and I were having like a little discussion about that because things could be out of sequence when it comes to the MCU itself too.
Right.
And honestly, I think the Marvels was probably supposed to be out before this movie came out because there was so many setbacks. So it's probably why, where it's like, oh, we're going to get this in backstory to some degree. So they might have to edit what they're doing within these episodes. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely right.
But yeah, cool. Yeah, I think we're on the same page as far as what we overall thought and we liked as far as like overall experience. But as far as highlights or our tops that were regarding this particular episode, I think we could go out of sequence because it is spoilerful. But I'm sure we each have our own individual, or we could just write off somebody else's thought because we had the same thought, and we could have a conversation of this. So, Steve, what would be your first point that you liked or found interesting within a specific scene?
We were already kind of discussing it. So with me, it was the whole, it's been 28 years since Fury made them this promise, right? We saw it in 1995. They arrived. 1997, he makes this promise that he and Carol Danvers are going to find them a home. And then, of course, how many years went by? And then there was the blip. So you have like 20 years or so. And there was the blip. And now we're a few years after the blip, and there's 1 million of them here. And I was what bothered me on the second watch, hearing that number, was how did they all get here without being detected? And Rhodey says, well, 12 or 15 years ago, I was on there was a few light ships arrived with the Skrulls. Okay, that's not 1 million people though. So how did they get here without being detected? Who, how much time did they learn to blend in, and especially those ones that have risen to, I mean, heck, one of them is what the chancellor, what do they call the prime minister? She's the UK prime minister is a Skrull.
Correct.
The leader of NATO, the secretary general is a Skrull. How long have they been? It's a lot of questions. And that's what it just really, and I thought it was funny. Like you said, Fury gets so mad, he throws Talos out of the train. He's like, I think this is your stop. I'm just like, so what are you going to do about the Russians roaming the train looking for you? And obviously he's a spy, so he knows how to sneak around, but that was my thing. The 1 million Skrulls, and where are they all hiding?
That was one of my favorite part, the reveal of that. And that was part of Fury's little, it was his kind of story of how him and his mother came to telling the truth to one another and saying what don't I know?
Mhm.
Because of his little soiree with little Susie in the back of Old Man Jackson's barn, and they're playing doctor, and he found a polka dotted frog, and she saw through that lie, and he goes, "What don't I know?" And
Right.
of course, we get the long convoluted story about trains and how the colored people had to be in the back of the train, and they had to sneak their food on, and they had to have their biscuits, their fried chicken, and all that good stuff, and they weren't allowed into the food car, which is a nice experience to show how old Fury is. A lot of people don't realize that about Nick Fury and how old he is within the MCU, so
Mhm.
it's kind
Correct.
of enlightening for certain people. But that's when Telos tells him about the million people, but it's also giving too, because with Talos explaining that there is an emperor, and apparently it was the few, that million that were that left the particular emperor Drogus or Drogus from Skrulls. So they're still out there. Those Skrulls are still out there. They didn't abandon wherever they are. They could still be on Skrullos. They could still be on, they could be on another planet in the Milky Way for all we know. But there are still more Skrulls out there, and that's something that Fury didn't know. We didn't know that apparently there are far more of them out there, but the million that we know of are on Earth. And we are, like you said, Steve, we're infiltrated because the UK Prime Minister, Pamela Lawton, is one of them. And she blatantly had that green necklace right in front of Rhodey during that whole little presentation and him contesting everything about Fury and everything else. So that's kind of a dead giveaway. It's like just throwing it in our faces like, yeah, we're Skrulls. And then we got FXN pundit Chris Stearns, played by Christopher McDonald, or you'll remember him as Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore. And he was there. So we know somebody's in media to actually invoke that, kind of like how a lot of people felt about NBC and how they kind of threw false media. So it's kind of like a commentary on society of what we have today.
Right.
And then we have NATO Secretary General Kaspani, and we know he's involved, but he's in charge of all these weapons and everything else that the world is. So basically, we are at the mercy of these people, whether it be media, military, or government. So it's like blatant right there, those three aspects. And I like how the conversation, and this kind of segues into what my thought was, and what I found interesting was with Rhodey and him firing Fury based upon what the president had says, because the government is in charge of Shield or Saber at this point, and they're basically telling him you're relieved of your duties. But the way Rhodey was talking was more of like a politician himself, which leads me to believe is this Rhodey, if he's a Skrull, how long has he been a Skrull? Has it?
Correct.
He had to have been. It had to have been, honestly, after I think Endgame, or maybe a little bit before. But he would have still had a. I have a hard time believing it was before Endgame, for the fact that the reason why I say this is just the way he was and how he acted amongst everybody during that fight. So I can't see it being a Skrull that was more involved. He wouldn't have that relationship with Tony or anybody like that.
Well, remember that. So a million Skrulls, and so what was the length of time from the Miss Marvel movie till now?
28 years,
28 years. So
yeah.
we're looking at 28 years of characters that probably has taken those 28 years to really bring in a million Skrulls
over
here
time.
over time. Correct. And so the question is, okay, so is Rhodey a Skrull, right? So let's say if he is, could he have been in an Endgame? Could a lot of these Skrulls have been affected during the blip or the snap, that what we call the snap?
So. Yeah,
Right. I would
everybody
say
was
so
affected.
too. Correct. So if that happened, keep in mind that the Skrulls have been around for so long that they would have what I would say, develop friendships with people, and you just probably wouldn't be able to tell because they do, what is it? They do the little mind meld thing where,
Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah.
right, where they have the same experiences and the same thoughts as the person that they're emulating. So that shouldn't be hard to do with Tony Stark.
I just don't think and I'm going to take the other side of this because I don't think Rhodey in this show is a Skrull. I don't think that just, to me, it wouldn't make any sense. They would have to explain to us when he got swapped out. I'm with you guys. Like, I don't know when would they have had the chance to swap him out. I don't see it. I don't think it is. I mean,
that could have happened anytime, honestly. Because again, if they're gonna take over other people's lives, then it could happen anytime at some point. It's just we don't know. Again, we don't know if Rhodey is or is not.
Yeah.
He is acting as a politician, though. That's the whole thing. Remember, I mean, even though he was fighting with the Avengers and everything, now he is, up there in the government, and he is pretty much acting as just a politician. A little bit different than the way he was acting in Endgame and
in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we saw him in there,
right?
And so anyway, I guess it'll be revealed. We'll find out.
I'm sure we'll find out.
We could say anybody's a Skrull. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Fury could be a Skrull.
And that's the whole point. I think that's the whole point of this show is that anybody could be a Skrull. I mean, for all we know, Nick Fury could be a Skrull.
Right.
He was
at one point because Talos took his position at one point while he was off world.
So, and then the reveal at the end was, I mean, that was pretty shocking to me. I don't know how you guys.
We can jump that shark right now and just say, jump to it and say, hey, let's talk about it. Well, all right. Remember the end of WandaVision when Monica Rambeau was greeted by somebody at the very end in a hidden warehouse, and it was this woman Skrull. It was an African American woman coming in, and as representation from Nick Fury. It was the same woman.
That's the same woman?
I didn't.
From what I can tell,
that,
I actually rewatched the scene. It's the same woman. She looks.
That would make sense.
Is she in the credits the same actress?
I did not look into that, but I just really rewatched the scene real quick. I didn't look. I didn't deep dive into that, but it looks exactly like that woman with the hair, how she looked, and how she talked.
Right.
So to me, I was like, okay, so the question is, Nick Fury has been in relations with a Skrull all this time. Now, the question is does he know she's a Skrull? Or because the way they acted, he walks into the house, you could see her, she's a Skrull, she's cooking. And next thing you know, she goes, she switches back and she tells him, and he has to put on his wedding ring.
Right.
Yeah. So
and it's interesting you say that because when he was coming in, she changed.
Yeah.
So again, but she didn't look like, oh my God, I'm gonna get caught or anything like that. It just looked like, hey,
natural. It's like as if he just wanted her to always to be that look to him,
or she's doing it for him, as a courtesy or something like that. I don't know. That's gonna be a great question to be answered.
Yeah, that was my question because I couldn't remember. Didn't they say something in the first episode about they need to stay in their human form? Like she made a point to say the warriors in Gravik's little group, they stay in human form all the time, so they don't get mixed up.
Yes.
And so the fact that she's changing back and forth means that I don't think she gets mixed up. If that makes sense.
She's keeping up the persona of the character that she is on Earth.
Right. And she doesn't, but what I'm saying is she doesn't need to be in her human form when he's not. I don't know. I have the same questions. I
see it like this. All right. A lot of women like to, they have to present themselves, wear a suit, whatever in the business world. When they come home, they want to release themselves. They take off their bra and whatever and just be casual. I see it as that way too. It's like, okay, she's like, oh, And then when he came in, it was back to business. I don't think it's back to business for him, but he's so used to
Right.
seeing her in that respect. And we won't know that until a later point. But to me, I just kind of like, all right, well, yeah, I have this feeling like either A, he is aware, and it kind of focuses in on the first conversation with him and Talos in the first episode, when how he knows that when a human is lying, but he can't tell
Mhm.
the difference between a Skrull is being
Right.
faking it, you know?
Right.
So it kind of borders on that question of a 50-50.
Well,
Does
there's a
he-
lot of speculations in it with this whole, and maybe that's what Disney meant to do
Mm,
with this show, is to have everybody guessing.
yes.
Well, I'm sure
On
putting it
what's
at the
going on.
end the way they did is
Right.
Yeah, it's meant to be like a cliffhanger, just like in Across the Spider-Verse. But yeah, there's a lot that's still missing, though, as far as when Talos talks to Fury when they were doing that whole "Tell me something I don't know." He kind of gives him a gist of the whole Kree-Skrull war in a short 2 sentences.
Mhm.
Right.
But there was no explanation of why that war started, who is initiative of that particular war, why there was so animosity, like I said, who would start it and what they were looking for.
Mhm.
You know, I'm not thinking of G.I. Joe and Cobra. It's like they want world domination or whatever, but I'm pretty sure somebody did something to somebody. Like the Skrulls could have did something to the Kree, like looked like one of them to infiltrate, and they did something wrong, and then the Kree retaliated and got to that point where we need to obliterate this race because they could look just like us
Right.
and then do whatever we need. We still don't have that history of the Kree-Skrull War, which kind of spawns of why there are millions of these Skrulls here on Earth. And that's a huge question. Now, in the comics, it was always looked at as the Skrulls as being the super baddies and the Kree being the goody.
Right.
Now they've changed it where it's like, okay, the Skrulls are trying to do the right thing and they were working with humans, but now we're at the other side of the fence where the Skrulls are trying to take over, like this certain section that are trying to take over the Earth and eliminate the human species, which is
Yeah. I mean,
a bit
didn't
weird.
they mention that they did destroy it?
Skrullos?
Yeah. I
No.
think they did. They mentioned something about the like Skrulls was destroyed.
But there was also at the Emperor, there was still the Emperor Drogus, who is still out there with the remaining part of the Skrulls.
Right.
So they didn't truly destroy Skrullos, but the people that were like abandoned, the million that abandoned them to follow Talos did so, and then the rest stayed with the Emperors, meaning that there's a faction out there in the universe that
Right.
Talos doesn't have control over, because who knows what their thoughts. But you know, we know Talos's situation with this. He's trying to help Fury out, but he also, you know, got caught in that lie of not telling Fury that, or you know, just not telling Fury, hey, there's a million of us here too, by the way, and there's a possibility of takeover. And
Yeah,
that's
well,
the
and
whole
now we
point.
got General Gravik is in charge of everybody, so Talos is out. He doesn't have any more power.
Yeah, he was part of that council of Skrulls that we saw, and who we know between the prime minister, the FXN pundit, and the NATO security
Right, but that's what
general.
I'm saying is now he's out, so he's trying to get some sort of power back, because like he told the one woman who Gravik let leave, he said, "I want to meet with Gravik," you know,
Yeah.
and she said, "Well, Gravik will kill you," so that's why he's like, "I want to meet publicly." So
And now we have this loose cannon of Shirley who's out there, and she wound up interrogating that one Skrull that they had from Gravik.
she cut his finger off. That's in my notes.
Well, it's an easy way. Think of it. It's not John Carpenter's The Thing. They can't just take a little bit of blood and put a hot poker in there to make it and turn out like, oh, you're an alien.
Right.
But who was that woman? You said you know who she was? Did I
Shirley?
miss something from the? You keep calling her Shirley. I have no context here. I'm trying to
That
figure
was
out.
the woman that Fury had met up in Russia, who was English.
The one that
Oh, right.
kidnapped
Okay. The one that
Fury.
had him
Yeah.
kidnapped. And okay,
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
I'm tracking. I didn't recognize her, so I didn't.
Yeah,
Now
because she had
okay.
a lot to lose because she plays the whole political and
Right. Gotcha.
power game.
Now I've
So
caught up with where who she
that's
is.
why she wound up getting there and then locking and just doing her terrorist activities of interrogation, of cutting the guy's finger off, and the guy didn't even realize, holy crap, you just cut my finger off.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, and
Correct.
then sticking him with a solution that runs it up to 160 degrees centigrade in his body to cook
Yeah, that
him
was
a
a
little
tough
bit.
scene to watch.
Yeah, so that was very hard because interrogation tactics right there. But throughout that, it's like Shirley got the information at what she needed at that point.
Mhm.
But the coolest part that I liked, because it's gonna come and it's we've already been foreshadowed of this, and Rob, you and I had spoke about this about the last episode
Right.
about the Super Skrulls. So now we got Gaia during that particular meeting in those offices now looking at a 486 computer with a CRT monitor going through and logging in. I'm forgetting the woman's login that they use, but she was able to log in and look at.
Wasn't it the doctors, Dalton, Rosa Dalton?
Yep, that's it. So they looked at her login. She got in that way, was able to see the DNA that they were using to morph these particular candidates of Skrulls and splice their DNA so that they could obtain these powers. Right. And it was wild to see the characters that we got. So they have the DNA from the Frost Beast from Thor: The Dark World.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Frost Beast. It had
Extremis.
Groot.
Yeah, I saw Groot.
Yeah,
How'd she get Groot?
Yeah.
How'd they get Groot?
They got it from Endgame because Groot kind of flakes off, or like debris of Groot would come off, so they could easily get that. Extremis, that was from Iron Man 3, but well, I feel bad for them because once they create a Skrull, they're just going to wind up exploding, so you don't want them exploding in your presence.
Right.
But
you know what, you're right. I think the whole Super Skrull thing, because I kind of went back to to kind of read up a little bit more on the Skrulls, and the Skrulls do have the ability to mimic the same powers and abilities as superheroes. But the Super Skrulls were really in the canon of Marvel is really one Skrull.
There was one particular Skrull that was created. Actually, they started the Skrulls oddly enough very early in the comic lore within Fantastic Four 2. And that was when they had to deal with, I'm not remembering the actual Emperor's name from Skrulls, but his name was Androgus. It was some other name. But that's where we found that. And then he was the one that created the Super Skrull. Now, the Skrulls then had the ability, just like in the show, to mimic people, take on their personalities and whatnot, and then have heavy super strength in comparison to a regular human.
Correct.
So what they're doing now is they're trying to do what they did in the comic, where instead of a Super Skrull with the Fantastic Four's ability, they have people, they could obtain DNA and then put these other superpowered beings, whether it be the Frost Beast, Extremis, Groot, or Cull Obsidian.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And the way they got Cull Obsidian's, it was because his hand got cut off by Wong while defending in Infinity War, while defending Bruce Banner at that point with the little whatever circle thing he does.
Yeah, so it's a good, because when you look at the trailers for Secret Invasion, you do see a Skrull that all of a sudden he has like tentacles that come out, and then when I saw the whole Groot thing, I said that's where he's getting his powers.
Yep, that is.
So it's an interesting way on how they're going to have the Super Skrull, and instead of having the powers, of course, of the Fantastic Four, it's going to be, it's going to be. I found it kind of genius almost. It was like, listen, if we give him ability, or we give the Super Skrull abilities of a character, we will have to then explain, I guess, that character. Like let's say, Bruce Banner or something like that. But they did it out of all these characters that were CG that really, I mean, Groot was what, Vin Diesel just saying I am Groot. Anybody could say that, but they made it interesting where it's like, oh, they didn't pick like a super power being or something like that, or what I would say like a main character. They're picking all these background characters, so they could have the powers for that. And I'm wondering, maybe that's a way of not acknowledging some of the other MCU properties or whatever it is. But
Right.
yeah, it's just some of their choices have been very interesting.
Plus, we do get a mention about the Avengers by Rhodey talking to Fury about getting their friends involved.
Right.
Now, how many friends do they really have left? There's not really that many. They're pretty much all off world or doing their own thing, and two of which are, Steve Rogers is an elderly man. Tony is gone. Thor's off world. Captain Marvel apparently is off world because she's not in the show.
Right.
Hawkeye's not coming back in any way, shape, or form. I think this is where they're going to start moving into with the MCU with the Young Avengers. I wouldn't be surprised where that comes in, and I wouldn't put it past them that we get Gaia involved.
Right.
And they wind up giving Gaia some sort of powers too, because apparently in the comic book, Gaia does obtain some sort of powers through DNA or something.
Right.
But if they do, then that will lead her to be part of the Young Avengers with Hawkeye's student. You got Miss Marvel, you got Gaia, you got Ironheart, and there's one more I'm thinking of. Oh, Ant-Man's daughter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Cassie Lang.
Right. What do they call her? Stature or something like that?
Yeah, it was Stature. You're right.
Stature.
Yeah. So I wouldn't put it past that, but before that, we're gonna get the Thunderbolts. So which I think of as like the anti-Avengers, kind of like an anti-hero, because you got Thaddeus Ross in there. You're gonna have whatever her name, Allegra. What's a
DeFontaine.
DeFontaine. You
whatever. I don't know the middle part.
Yeah.
But she's going to call together these people. So you're going to have a variety of different people in that, but they're not your traditional Avengers. So they will come to arms at one point, but whoever they fight, we don't know. But I would see this as like kind of like a starting point, but we're going to be stuck in this mess of government and society at this point with these Skrulls and trying to figure out where we stand as humans as well as where the Skrulls stand in our society. And it's kind of that duality of what Fury was talking about in the train car. And it's like, he was trying to explain it in the sense of like segregation, where he felt that segregation, but they were able to fit in at a certain point, and it took time. So he was trying to say it to Talos in a way where, then Talos was like, yeah, but you just left and you stuck yourself up on that starship. And I still feel that now that is PTSD. And now he has even more PTSD because of Maria Hill. So, and I look forward to see what we get in the next episode, because I'm sure we're going to get few more eye-opening.
Oh, I'm sure.
Two more eye-opening episodes, because this is 6 parts and this is just episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And the last 2 will probably be long.
Yeah, we got a long ways to go. So,
but those were my thoughts. That's what I had. Did you guys have anything else?
Well, you covered a lot of it.
Yeah, I think we've got everything that I had. We talked about the machine. That's my question. You guys answered my question about what this machine was. The Skrulls are building that looks like it's going to be able to combine DNA or something. So.
Yeah, that's going to probably be for the Super Skrulls or something like that. I mean, my thought on it was more of, like the little bits that I took out of it, especially when Fury was talking to
Talos.
There we go.
Yeah,
Sorry about that. But yeah, when he's talking to Talos, I mean, when Talos is like, well, humans are so judgmental, and he's like, yes. I mean, we're so judgmental. We're so judgmental to ourselves.
Yeah. I've got the quote. I've actually got the quote here, because Talos believes they can coexist together. And I'm not going to say it the way Fury said it, because he says it really loud. And I've already been loud on this podcast. But I got the whole quote, or almost the whole quote. Humans can't coexist with each other. You've been here long enough to know that, Talos. We've been at war with each other since we could walk upright. There is not enough room or tolerance on this planet for another species.
That is, yeah. So I found that to be that very powerful quote because there's so much truth to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if we're
Yeah.
if we have so much infighting with ourselves, you know, because of religion, because of, you know, status in our society, you know,
Mhm.
our religious beliefs, everything. It just imagine having a completely different species come to
Right.
Earth, and on top of that, a species that can actually morph into anybody else. And you know
Yeah.
how paranoid we are with, oh, you know, the government is listening on us, or, you know, and all these things. Imagine having a species that can actually, now you'll have everybody.
You look like your daddy.
Yeah, you'll have you'll have everybody always paranoid. People just like, oh, you know, he could be a Skrull, you know. Then you go back to that entire what I would call the Salem witch trials, right? Where in the Salem witch trials, you didn't have to be a witch. All you had to do was be accused of being a witch and you would get
Mhm.
burned,
Correct.
which kind of sucked. You know, so that's what I see here. I see that, hey, even if they integrated them into our society, you're going to have groups, hate groups, and you're going to have all these, you know, laws that, you know, can they morph or they can't morph, or maybe they have to be segregated. All these things,
Mhm.
like all of a sudden it brought back all these social commentaries, which is like, wow, will they tackle a lot of that in the next 4 episodes? Or was that just a, hey, we just said it to say it here? Because that to me would be interesting. And we've had a lot of movies out there. One movie that I always enjoyed, and they became a series. You guys remember Alien Nation?
I was just having the same thought.
yeah.
Yeah, I just had
Yeah.
the same thought about Alien
Alien
Nation.
Nation
It's-
was
I'm not drinking any sour
yeah.
milk.
Yeah, Alien Nation was the same thing. Having a, you know, an alien species come to Earth, you know, taking jobs, or that's at least how they feel, or, you know, but they're not being treated right. All the
What's worse is that's 30 years ago and we're still dealing with the same issues.
right. That is
Yeah.
correct. So
That is
imagine a completely different alien species coming in. So
Mhm.
that I hope they really do tackle some of that, at least a little bit. I know it's only 4 episodes left, but that to me was very fascinating. I was like, all right, cool. How are they going to deal with that? And
Mhm.
a million Skrulls? I mean, you tell me they had like 10,000 Skrulls, which is still a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
But now to
Then
find out
I'll
there's
be
a
like,
million
all
of
right,
them
you know, but a
scattered
million,
over the whole earth.
yeah, a million Skrulls. I mean, that's as big as some, you know, certain towns, you know, in or
Mhm.
cities in the United States, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, crazy. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Same here.
All right.
I think that was our take on
Yeah.
Secret Invasion Season 1, Episode 2.
I had a quote. It's kind of cliched and kind of tropey, but I liked it both times I heard it. I'm Nick Fury. Even when I'm out, I'm in.
Oh, yeah, that is
I don't
true.
know.
Yeah.
It's kind of tropey and kind of a jokey little line, but I loved it. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Well, the most like adult-oriented line that came out of that was Shirley when she comes in and they were doing the
yeah.
interrogation before she gets there. And the guy's got the sword underneath his arm and he's ready to continue beating on the guy. And she goes, you know, if you continue to, like your mom has always said, if you continue to beat your meat like that, you're gonna lose your eye.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
That got
what
past the censors too. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. All right, I guess we're in that territory, Disney Marvel. It's like you already gave us the F-bomb in Guardians, and now we
Well,
got
there's always been those little, you know, innuendos where
innuendos.
where you catch on, where, you know, the younger audience probably, or, you know, is not going to catch on to that at all. But the older, I mean, at least there's something there for the older audience to go, oh, okay. You know, that's that was kind of cool. Or that was, you know, it brings a smile to your face, or at least it did for me. So
Yeah. All right. Well, as always, ladies and gentlemen, we always talk about feedback. We didn't get any feedback. I put it out there. I actually put it on Instagram and Twitter as well. I copied it. I think I did, as well as the Facebook page. But we didn't get anything. But we'll just move right along into, and we'll talk about how to send in your feedback soon. But right now, podcast recommendations are where listeners could hear you guys. So, Steve?
well, really right here is pretty much, you can hear me, you can hear my voice on some of the other podcasts that I call in my live Steves too, but this is going to be the biggest place you're going to hear me, right here on Panels to Pixels.
And Rob?
And me, you could find me on Fantasy Picks Movie Edition, where we normally take movies and bad movies that were overhyped, what I call tentpole movies that didn't make it in the box office or critically. There are a lot of them this year. And what we do is we do our own fantasy cast on what we have done to make it any better. So, and we also do a top 5 movie draft, depending on actor, movies, genres, and things like that once in a while. And hopefully soon we'll be getting into movie composers, at least covering one movie composer a month or something like that. That's probably going to start in July for music fans out there, or for people who like film music. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. And as always, you could hear me here on Panels to Pixels podcast as usual. You could also hear me on Adrenaline Cinema podcast, where we cover everything action, adventure, fantasy, thrilling, suspense, anything that gets your adrenaline going. Just released and dropped yesterday was The Thing from 2011. So Jerry Gomez and I covered that, and we had a good time covering that and talking about Mary Elizabeth Winstead, possibility of John Carpenter continuing with that saga because he made kind of hints in convention form, and how the continuity worked out with that prequel in comparison to the original 82 version of
So
The
he's
Thing.
thinking of doing another one?
Yes. He kind of made a huge hint at a convention recently by somebody who was established.
Is this going to be a sequel to The Thing, or
Correct.
Okay. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, to the one that he had done. So what that entails, I have no clue, but I look forward to whatever he comes up with. But I've heard this before when it came to Escape from Earth, and we never got that particular movie.
Oh, I never even heard of that.
Oh, yes. Well, there was a lot of litigation in that. So actually, when we do cover Escape from New York and Escape from LA eventually, we will discuss those things as well. Coming up next, and it's definitely on the dock, and we're actually ready to record come Monday. Right now we're recording on June 30th, but Jamie Dimmick and Jerry and I are going to be covering Big Trouble in Little China.
Nice.
So that's another John Carpenter movie that we're going to be covering. The 2011 version was not by John Carpenter. It was done by somebody else, but we'll be covering Big Trouble in Little China. So if you have any thoughts on the movie Big Trouble in Little China, throw us an email at adrenalinecinema@gmail.com. So just send your thoughts and what you thought about that, or you just go to facebook.com/adrenaline cinema podcast and just look for the image and then just put it in the comments below the image for that particular movie, and we'll read them. But with that, we'll move right along into how you could send in feedback here, which would be, well, you could easily send us an email at panels2pixels1@gmail.com. That's panels2 spelled out to pixels and the number 1@gmail.com. You can write out your thoughts however you want in email, texted format, and we'll read them on the podcast. If you don't feel like, writing out your thoughts and you want to record yourself, you could do so and just send it as an attachment in the email, and then we'll play it live here on the podcast and we'll discuss it. You can easily go to our Facebook group. I already mentioned it. All you have to do is go to facebook.com/panels to pixels. We have a website, and I have been neglecting, and I've been neglecting this for over a year, panels to pixels podcast.com. Still working. And we are on Twitter at panels2pixels. That's at panels and the number 2 and pixels. We are on Instagram as well, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Steve?
We are on Instagram is at panels2pixels podcast, all spelled out in words. I know it's super long, but at panels2pixels podcast.
Awesome. And then we are on YouTube as well. All you have to do is search us on YouTube. Just search Panels to Pixels podcast. Don't do the other one. Don't just do Panels to Pixels. You'll get Josh. And we love Josh, and he's a great guy. And he's put out some great content recently, too. So I highly recommend you check it out. But check us out there. So if that's your way to listen to us, that's a good way to listen to us, too. It's just literally the podcast. an image of from the show or movie that we're covering with the logo of Panels to Pixels on it, Panels to Pixels podcast on it. Or you could watch any interviews or anything that we do live when we have that opportunity when it comes, because we do on occasion get maybe a celebrity guest here and there. You can always look at that, and it's our back catalog as well. We can be heard on Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, or whatever podcast player of choice you use. If there's a rating or review available for those particular apps, please do so. Give us a rating or a review. But the best one that you could actually do would be Apple Podcasts, because apparently everybody knows what Apple Podcasts are, because that's where podcasts came from initially. But it's the most highly recommended one, and that's what people look at. So, but that's about it. That was our episode, and I look forward to what we're going to get next week on Secret Invasion. Next up, we will be recording our review of The Flash from 2023. So look out for that as well, and send some information, like some sort of feedback regarding that. I look forward to actually covering that, because there's a lot of things that came up recently about this particular movie, and I'm intrigued to talk about it.
Oh, me too.
All right, so that was our podcast, and I'm Mark.
I'm Robert.
And I'm Steve.
Same podcast, different panel, different pixel. This was Panels to Pixels, and we'll see you on the next panel. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.